I never imagined one evening could change everything. What started as a quiet night with my grandpa, just dinner, a movie, like so many times before, turned into something I never saw coming. By the time we were alone in his room, I didn't recognize the situation anymore. It felt wrong, but I couldn't pull away. What happened next still haunts me. I've never shared this with anyone, but tonight, I'm ready to tell you. And trust me, you won't be able to forget it. My grandpa was always there for me. He was the one person I could always count on, the one who made me feel safe, no matter what. I spent so many weekends at his house, and it felt like a second home. There was something comforting about it, the smell of his old leather chair, the way the house seemed to always be filled with warmth. That evening started like any other. My parents were out of town, and I was staying with him for a few days. After dinner, we decided to watch a movie in the living room, a little Netflix and chill, as they say. It was a routine I had grown so used to, just the two of us, winding down after a long day. We picked a light-hearted comedy, something to laugh about, to keep things easy and light. But as the movie played, something shifted. I can't explain it, but the way he looked at me felt different. And I couldn't ignore the way I felt either. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe I was imagining things. After all, he was my grandpa, the one I trusted most. But then, as the movie went on, we sat closer, our arms brushing against each other, our laughter fading into quiet, lingering looks. It wasn't the kind of look I was used to. Something about it made my heart race, and I couldn't figure out why. As the movie played, something started to feel off. At first, I couldn't explain it, but the air in the room felt thicker, like something was changing, something I wasn't ready for. The soft hum of the TV was all we could hear, but it seemed distant now. The room, which had always been so familiar, felt foreign. The way he looked at me, it wasn't the same. His eyes lingered just a second too long, and his smile, which had always been warm, suddenly seemed different, almost like he was seeing something in me that I wasn't sure I wanted him to see. I tried to brush it off, but then, when I shifted on the couch, our arms brushed against each other. Just a fleeting touch, but it felt like the whole room froze for a moment. I could feel the warmth of his skin against mine, and my heart raced in a way I couldn't ignore. My breath caught, and I pulled back instinctively, but I didn't move far enough away. I glanced at him, and he was already looking at me. His eyes were soft, but there was something else in them, a depth I hadn't seen before. It was like he was waiting for me to say something, to break the silence. But I couldn't. I was frozen, my mind spinning, unsure of what was happening or how to make it stop. I wanted to pull away, to shake off the feeling, but I couldn't. I was too scared to move, too confused by the strange pull I felt toward him. It felt wrong, but at the same time, there was something magnetic about it. Something I couldn't explain. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't sure how to make it stop. I couldn't break the silence. I couldn't pretend everything was fine anymore. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew I couldn't ignore it. And that scared me more than anything. The silence between us was heavy, and before I could think, he reached for my hand. It was gentle, but deliberate, almost like he was waiting for me to pull away. But I didn't. I couldn't. When he leaned in, everything in me screamed to stop, to push away, to pretend this wasn't happening. But instead, I stayed still, my heart pounding in my chest. His lips met mine softly, as if testing the waters, as if unsure of what he was doing, but I could feel the tension in the air, thick and undeniable. At first, it was slow, almost hesitant. But then, it deepened. The kiss wasn't just a kiss anymore. It was something more. The movie, the room, the world outside, it all disappeared. It was just the two of us, caught in this moment, and for a second, I didn't know if I wanted it to stop. I felt a rush of heat, a mixture of excitement and fear that tangled inside me. My mind screamed that this was wrong, that I should pull away, but my body didn't listen. I didn't know how to stop or if I even wanted to. I was lost in it, in the feeling of his touch, his warmth, and the way everything seemed to make sense in that one fleeting moment. But deep down, I knew something had changed. I wasn't sure what it meant, or how to explain it, but I couldn't deny it. And that terrified me. He pulled away for a moment, his breath warm against my skin, and whispered, "Let's go somewhere more private." I didn't even hesitate. My heart was racing in my chest, and for a brief moment, I wondered if I should stop, if I should say something, but the words wouldn't come. I followed him to his room, my mind spinning, my pulse pounding in my ears. It felt like we were both trapped in this moment, unable to break free. I knew what was happening, but I couldn't bring myself to stop it. Every step felt heavier, the weight of what we were about to do pressing down on me, but I couldn't turn back now. When we reached his room, he closed the door behind us, and in that instant everything changed. The familiar safety of the living room was gone. It was just the two of us, alone in the quiet darkness. I stood there, frozen for a moment, but he didn't need to say anything. We didn't need words anymore. We both knew what we wanted. The tension between us was unbearable, and I could feel the pull of it, like gravity, drawing us closer. His touch was gentle, yet firm, as his hands found their way to me. I felt a rush of emotions, all tangled together, excitement, fear, confusion. His closeness overwhelmed me, and as he kissed me, I felt the warmth of his body against mine, a heat that spread through me, leaving me breathless. Every moment felt so intense, so alive, even though I knew it was wrong. But in that moment, I didn't want it to stop. I couldn't explain it, but everything else faded away. The guilt, the confusion, it all melted into the background as we shared that intimate connection. I was caught between wanting to pull away and not being able to stop myself. I didn't want to think about the consequences. I just wanted to feel, to be in that moment, even if I knew I shouldn't. In his room, everything felt so intense. The air was thick with tension, and I couldn't make sense of what was happening anymore. It wasn't just physical, it was emotional too. There was a pull, an undeniable connection that made me feel seen in a way I never had before. He made me feel wanted, cherished, and that feeling overwhelmed me, even though I knew it was wrong. A part of me wanted to stop, wanted to push away and make sense of everything that was happening. But another part of me didn't want to let go. I couldn't explain it, but in those moments, it felt so real, so raw. Every touch, every glance, it was like we were speaking without words. I was caught in the intensity of it all, unsure of where it would lead but unable to break free, and then, the next night came. And the next. Each time, we found ourselves back in his room, repeating the same actions, the same feelings. Each time, it felt like we were getting closer, but also farther away from who we were supposed to be, from the people we had always been. I couldn't ignore the growing weight of what we were doing, the knowledge that it was wrong, but I couldn't deny how it felt either. The guilt, the confusion, the desire, it all tangled together, and I didn't know how to make it stop. As the days turned into nights, the weight of what we were doing grew heavier with every passing moment. I couldn't escape it, it was always there, lurking in the back of my mind, no matter where I was or what I was doing. The mornings felt different. The sunlight streaming through the windows didn't bring warmth anymore, instead, it felt like a spotlight, exposing the shame I tried so hard to hide. When I looked at him during the day, I didn't see the same person I used to. His smile, once comforting, now felt like a reminder of the secret we shared. I couldn't tell if he felt the same way, but there was a shift in the air between us. It wasn't just guilt, it was something deeper, something I couldn't put into words. Every time I thought about stopping, about saying no, the memory of his touch, his warmth, would flood my mind. It was like I was caught between two versions of myself, the one who knew this was wrong and the one who couldn't resist. I wanted to stop. I told myself I would. But when the night came, I found myself drawn to him all over again. Each night in his room felt like stepping into a world where nothing else mattered. The outside world disappeared, and all that existed was us. But when the door closed behind me, a knot formed in my stomach. I knew I shouldn't be there, yet I couldn't bring myself to leave. His presence was magnetic, pulling me in, despite the voice in my head screaming at me to walk away. The worst part was the confusion. I couldn't untangle the emotion swirling inside me. Was it desire, guilt, fear, or all of them at once? I began to question everything about myself. How had I let it get this far? Why couldn't I stop? And why, deep down, did I not want to? I felt like I was living two lives, one where I pretended everything was normal and another where I was consumed by the secret. It was exhausting, but the pull was too strong to resist. Each night, I promised myself it would be the last. And yet, when the time came, I found myself back in his room, caught in a cycle I didn't know how to break. The realization hit me like a wave, leaving me breathless and hollow. I wasn't just trapped in the situation, I was trapped by my own feelings. And the hardest truth of all? I didn't know if I wanted it to end. Looking back, I'm still haunted by the memories of those nights. They've stayed with me, etched into my mind, shaping the person I am today. I've spent countless hours trying to make sense of it all, questioning every decision, every feeling, every moment. Was it love? Was it a need for connection? Or was it something else I couldn't understand at the time? I still don't have the answers, and maybe I never will. But what I do know is that those nights changed me in ways I never expected. They forced me to confront parts of myself I didn't even know existed. I can't say I've found peace with what happened, but I've learned to live with it. It's a part of my story now, a chapter one can't erase, no matter how much I might want to. And while it's painful to remember, it's also a reminder of how fragile we are as human beings, how easily we can be swept away by emotions we don't fully understand. Sharing this with you hasn't been easy. But maybe, by opening up, I can finally start to heal. Maybe, in some way, it can help someone else out there who's struggling with their own inner turmoil. Life is complicated, messy, and sometimes unexplainable. But it's those experiences, even the painful ones, that shape who we are. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that we can't let our past define us. We have to find a way to move forward, even when it feels impossible. Life has a way of throwing us into situations we never saw coming. Have you ever been caught in a moment that left you questioning everything? A moment that changed you forever? I'd love to hear your thoughts. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Share your perspective in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and share it with someone who might relate. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that delve into the complexities of life, love, and the choices we make. Your support means the world to me, and I can't wait to share more with you.